Are we on? Is this thing happening? We are doing this. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Homeroom. It looks like it's Tuesday, October 27th. And Thompson is now going on YouTube. So my goal is to have posts every day, 6 days a week. Hopefully we can get up to 8 or 9 posts a week. So we'll see how it goes. This is Homeroom, our daily newscast and hot topics. Ooh, today's hottest topic. Are women going to lose the ability to determine their own medical decisions? It looks like we're going to have to get into that after we cover some of these more morning news-ish pieces. So I'm going to just put this back here. So this one I want to get into is sort of a mix of finance and COVID. So first of all, Wall Street seems to want a stimulus package to go out because they are predicting more lockdowns. Lockdowns means less business, less circulation of money, which means people need stimulus. At the same time, keep in mind, the moratorium on evictions is winding up. We're down to like 30 to 60 days now instead of 60 to 90 days towards sheriffs coming by and pushing people out of their homes. So business saying we got to get a package done. So that starts to get complicated. I'll get into that stimulus package stuff. Let me get back into the concern about the lockdown, right? So in stock news, since we're talking about finances, there's a publicly traded company called AstraZeneca, okay? And they have a vaccine that seems to be showing some progress. They've made it into what are called phase 3 trials. It's the double-blind research study. I may get into that in Saturday School edition. So if that's something you want to learn about, how these blind studies actually work, let me know in the chat and I can put a little something together. Now, back on October 6th, the same company, AstraZeneca, who's manufacturing the drug, which is actually being designed in Oxford, which is out there in Britain in the UK. Now, October 6th, they actually had to put their trials on hold because one of the patients had gotten a concerning illness while on the trial. They have since resumed the trial. Now they're starting to get some of their phase 3 data in, and it does seem to be able to have an effect both on old people and on young people. So that seems to be promising. Now, Eli Lilly, on the other hand, if you have any stock in them, you might want to unwind that, mainly because they have determined that the antibody that they've been working on is of no benefit to the patient. And so they may go back to the drawing board, or it's possible that they're just simply going to be out of the race. My money, I can't remember where my money is, but next time I get on the topic, I'll make sure to let you know who I've got my money on. 2 companies, the one that does Remdesivir, and I can't remember the other one. I'll let you know. Anyway, some other news came out of London. Immunity. Seems like there's some initial research that immunity does not last. Apparently, So apparently, researchers at an Imperial College in London have found that they did a study, and people who were testing positive for coronavirus antibodies, the things that give you the immunity, seems to have reduced by about 25%, I think, over the course of 3 or 4 months, June, July, August, and September. So over the course of 4 months, they have tested these people and have come to find out that they are actually losing the antibodies over time. So that could be good for business because that means people would have to get the flu just like get a vaccine for COVID every year. So whoever does manufacture it may end up in a really good financial position. How is COVID spreading across the world? So first in Germany, 2 cities have been locked down. We already talked about several of the other European cities in an earlier edition. Russia has just recently implemented a national mask mandate. So anytime Russians go out in public, or if you plan to go to Russia anytime soon, make sure you bring plenty of masks. Around the United States, lockdowns are approaching. If you haven't had any lockdowns in your city, you should be ready, which means it's time to hunker down. Just like when COVID first broke out and people started making runs to the grocery store to get all the extra food and extra toilet paper, my hope and expectation is that it will be a bit more timely and a bit more orderly. But it is going to be time to start stocking up, especially for the winter, because number one, nobody wants to go out when it's cold. But also number two, some of these places may experience some lockdowns. Newark, New Jersey just implemented an 8 p.m. curfew. El Paso, Texas has some serious concerns as they've seen a 300% rise in hospitalizations. So that has nothing to do with COVID counts and whether the count is right, has nothing to do with death, and people conspire on whether they actually died of COVID or if they're padding or reducing the numbers in some kind of a way. These are people, nobody's choosing to go to the hospital, okay, unless they have to. And so in that case, we are seeing some significant rises down there in El Paso, Texas. Prisons across America are certainly suffering due to increases, and as well immigration detention centers. Remember, Donald Trump has spent a lot of time these last several years putting a lot of people in these immigration camps, these for-profit immigration detention centers. And so they are also very concerned about spikes in COVID. At the same time, though, Trump's rallies be lit AF. Do you hear what I'm saying? They are packed. That means his people are coming and they plan to vote. So that's huge. They don't care about no social distance. They will all be packed in there, super tight, shoulder to shoulder. Most of them don't wear masks. I wouldn't be surprised if there's mask shaming going on for Republicans who want to support Trump but still want to stay safe. The biggest problem is when you wear a mask, you're actually wearing a mask for the benefit of other people, right? You're keeping your air contained. But if you go out into a place where everybody else is just spewing their carbon dioxide filled with whatever they have in there, bad breath and everything, out into the air, well, that doesn't necessarily help you because the air is, it's a volume of air. So you're bringing that in. But what you're doing with the mask is preventing yours from getting out as easily. So it's a bit of a catch-22 being out there in the Trump land. He still calls the virus fake news and calls fake media, getting into the coronavirus and keep talking about COVID actually more political. Now, here's the most important thing that I have saved for the last. Let me tell you something. The Chinese, they not playing. Do you hear me? Or maybe they are. Do you know that I just found out that the Chinese are practicing? They're doing like major deployment exercises when it comes to viral response. News just came out that there was one case in Shenzhen, China. After that one case was found, the Chinese government deployed a team of scientists to test 5 million people in that city. After that, what did they do? They discovered about 150 or so, I'm not sure, people who tested positive for COVID out of those 5 million. And those people went under some significant contact tracing, and those people were all isolated. So on the one hand, the Chinese government they are on it and they're deploying on significant scales. And I would not be surprised if they start implementing an international deployment strategy in order to respond to virus outbreaks. At the same time, though, China has a lot of leverage when it comes to doing lockdowns, forcing people to test and all of that, because they are not as, used to American liberties as we are. And so sometimes the American attitude is give me liberty or give me death. And that's what it seems like we are looking at. So anyway, that's what's going on with your health news and COVID. Let's take a look at, here we go again. Last week, there were several cases where authorities have murdered people, in particular men of color. And so I just want to give you an update on that. First name you should know is Walter Wallace Jr., 27-year-old man out of Philly, was killed by the police. They say he had a knife. They called on a mental health crisis. Rather than send mental health professionals, they sent the police. And what did the police do? They pulled the trigger, shot him about 10 times, if I'm not mistaken. Over in Illinois, police officer in Waukegan was fired because he shot and killed a young man named Marcellus Stinnett, 19-year-old passenger in a vehicle. He was sitting in the car late at night with his girlfriend of 20 years old. And apparently the police were responding to a suspicious vehicle. Now put yourself in the driver's position, right? Here you are with your man, cuddling up in the car, outside. I think they were even outside one of their mama's house or something, right? So they spending time in the car away from the parents, doing what young people do. And then here comes the police. Now, you don't know that the police just got a suspicious vehicle call, right? Who's calling you on suspicious for sitting in your car? Anyway, so what do? Because in their mind, they just hanging out, booed up. So they pull off, right? Because the cop is just pulling up on them. I don't know if there were lights on. I don't know if they did the whole siren. I don't know. All I know is this cop was walking up on them, so they decided to pull off. Next thing you know, after whatever drama took place, the cop shoots into the moving car, kills the kid, injures the girl. I think the girl is still in the hospital in serious condition. So it was certainly a breach in in police policy. So he was fired. And now the question is, will they be able to press charges? Also, a Mexican man on the border in San Isidro. These people demand justice because a 30-year-old man was killed by border police. Now, apparently he had walked across the border. I don't know if that's a crime punishable by death, but he had walked across the border. He was approached by a border security officer. That officer then proceeded to shoot him, as I understand it, point blank in the chest. And since we're talking about Mexico, what I will also let you know, I wonder, have you ever heard of the Mexican Water Treaty of 1944? Apparently, and I don't know why, but apparently the Mexican government and the United States government entered into a treaty which guarantees that Mexican must divert, let me get this number right, 1.5 million acre feet of water. That's a lot of water from Mexico back to the United States. I believe is going to Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. Well, here's the problem. The Mexican farmers in that city ain't happy about it. There's a significant drought, and the men need that, the families, the people, they need that water in order to sustain their own lives. And so there is a significant amount of pushback regarding that. Moving on to, hey, what's up, Esteban, my man? Good morning, good morning. Glad that you came through. Thanks for checking in. Let's talk about California, boys. So climate issues. You know that there's a pretty big California fire going on. It is down in Orange County. And Southern California Edison has just taken responsibility for starting the fire. That's good. What we also just found out is that 100,000 people have to evacuate certain areas of Orange County because the fires are getting significant. I think it's called the Silverado fire. If you know anybody in that area, you might want to check in on your people. Talking about climate, China has vowed to be climate neutral. Carbon emission neutral, I think, is the goal by 2060. Now, a lot of activists say that's far too late. So, it is what it is. But what I will say is at least they have a significant goal. And from China, an extremely dense and population who really doesn't have too much problem polluting now, it is a significant step in the right direction. And so I see China positioning themselves to be the world dominant power after this paradigm shift. Now, what that looks like for us in America, I'm not exactly sure. Next thing to tell you is that Japan has followed suit. Japan has also agreed that they plan to be carbon neutral by 2050. 2050 is certainly a number that I think the United States is trying to get to. But then again, I have to do some more research and find out if we actually have a national commitment or if we just talk smack. Also in New York, some climate activists have chained themselves to a construction site. Now, you might want to learn about National Grid. National Grid is laying some pipes through Brooklyn, in particular Black and Latinx or Hispanic areas. Okay. And that's obviously not good. It's going to be fracked oil going through the city. So if anything goes wrong, and we all know about oil spills, they are not impossible. Some would say they're even common. That could be an issue. So these activists have chained themselves to the construction site to slow it down and to bring attention to what National Grid is trying to do to the people there. So earlier I started off this conversation, and I do plan to get into abortion issues. And I know I'm pushing my 15-minute mark, so I'm going to try to get there as quickly as possible. The question is, does size matter? According to Nancy Pelosi, maybe so. Listen, I can't say that I'm a fan of the Republicans and Trumpism. At the same time, though, I call shenanigans when I see them. I'm wondering, now that I've looked into it, is Nancy Pelosi, she is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives is being controlled by the Democrats. They are proposing a stimulus bill. It's a big stimulus bill. The question is she stalling in the negotiations for some self-righteous, Is she stalling for the righteousness of the people and trying to fight for what the people want? Or is this a political power play? What I want to do is maybe a Saturday school on the American government structure and talk about these three co-equal branches and how they're divided and how they interact. If you want to hear my spin on that on a Saturday school edition, definitely let me know in the chat and I will try to put that together. But first of all, Nancy Pelosi has announced that she does plan to run for another term as Speaker of the House. Polls seem to predict that the House will be controlled by the Democrats. But there are some polls that say that potentially the Senate could also be run by the Democrats. And if that is the case, then she can get this large bill passed because the Democrats will control both houses of the legislative branch. Now, that's interesting. She also is representing the negotiations. So here are how the negotiations stand as I see it. Though Republicans want a bill that's less than $300 billion. And they want to put strict limits on how that money can be spent. The Democrats want a bill that's more than $400 billion, and they want greater flexibility on how that money can be spent, even being spent on financial issues that a city may have had before COVID, right? And so on the one hand, you may hear that they're trying to do what's right for the people and help the broadest amount of people. On the other hand, you hear Republicans and other conservatives saying that this is just another opportunity for corruption to creep its way into the government. All right, guys, I am 4 minutes in. Tuesday is usually the day that I do professional development. And so I want to talk a little bit about the power of your network. I was just online with one of my former students who is building up a YouTube channel where he gets people to join him on a Gran Turismo car game. And they go around, and it's so crazy because they don't even actually race. What they do is they set up shots. And then this guy records it, and then he edits it to make the race look like an act. It's crazy what these kids are pulling off these days. And so I say that to say this, whatever it is that you want to do, we're changing the way economy works. We are changing the way that jobs of the future work. We're changing the value of education and how people get educated. There are a lot of things that are underway. Old people, we're fighting over things like healthcare. We're fighting over things like taxes. We're fighting over things like technology and privacy rights. There's a lot of things that are in flux. For young people, I see this as a massive, massive opportunity to expand your network. So when you're thinking about social media, don't just think about it from the personal perspective, how many likes you get because you have cool pictures of you upside down or whatever random things. Think about how you can intentionally leverage your social media presence to move you in the direction of your goal. You want to be a painter? Well, how come you're not posting your own paintings or sketch drawings? You want to be an architect? Well, why don't you take us out on a tour of some cool buildings and show us what's popping off? In other words, leveraging your social media in a way that advances your professional goals is certainly one of the key strategies to expanding your network and expanding your influence. Now, when it comes to these next 2 minutes, I'm just going to lay something out real quick so that I can get you guys out of here on time. Listen up. White people not playing, bro. Just last night, Amy Coney Barrett was officially ratified as the Supreme Court judge. So it's all and done. It's over. Okay. So the Republicans figured out a way and they have got their girl into the office. So at this point, there are 9 judges on the Supreme Court. Of those, 6 of them identify as conservative, 3 of them identify as liberal. Trump is personally responsible for placing 3 judges on the court himself in this first term. So that's certainly a fantastic turn of events for the conservatives and those who support Trump. What's interesting is I saw a picture of them less than 6 feet away, not wearing masks on one of the balconies of the White House. So they're certainly proud about themselves, certainly continuing the narrative that COVID is more of a political issue than a scientific issue. In some states, women will be forced to bear children that they may not want or may not be healthy for them to carry. I'll say it this way with my 20 seconds. Hours after she was nominated, family, the Attorney General in Mississippi asked the Supreme Court to look at a case which would ban abortions in the entire state after 15 weeks. The Supreme Court has agreed to take up this case, and it may be one of the first issues that Amy Coney Barrett looks into. If you want to know more about what I'm doing, please like what I'm talking about. Please subscribe. Please share this message. I'm trying to keep my people both updated and informed, motivated and developed as professionals. And so if that's something that you want to be a part of, continue to follow me as I develop this channel. Peace, 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 peace.